and say, welcome everybody, happy Monday. And I have to say, I'm going to report we had a very successful, barring some interesting bumps, but a very successful virtual open house. Thank you all who participated. It was a lot of fun. As soon as I put that Facebook up, which by the way took about, oh, I don't know, hours to actually load to Facebook, I had about within the first half hour, 248 views. Yeah, I don't even know what it's at now. I haven't even looked. I should look. Let's.
A bloopers?
Oh my gosh, a bloopers would be hysterical. I'm sure we would. I'm sure. People do. People do love, yeah, when you mess up. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. I'm not sure how many people have.
No bloopers.
What was that? Not bloopers, Keith?
No bloopers. I'd probably dominate.
Well, that's one in Windermere that we're going to go see today for those of you who want to view it. So it's a great home. And I hope you all join us today at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, right? 2 o'clock. Hold on, I'll double check it. We are having a wonderful broker open today at 2 to 4 at this beautiful house that I was staying in. And it's on Lone Tree. It's a beautiful home on the Lake Sheen and the Butler chain. It's gorgeous. So today we're doing closing techniques, because as we go through the listing presentation, you have to be able to close it. And next week, which I think is a little bit backwards, but we're going to do objection handling. I think it's important to be able to handle the objections that you get, because that's half the battle. So, are you guys okay going with closing techniques today and objection handling next week?
Next week's Memorial Day.
Oh, I lied. I'm not doing it next week. I'll do it the following week. Yes, not next week. Next week's Memorial Day. Thank you, Lisa Campfire.
So now I'm good.
Now she's good. Yes, the following week we'll be doing that. Okay, so we're gonna dive right in. And those of you,
Next Monday is my birthday.
and next Monday is
Memorial Day.
birthday. So Memorial Day is a national holiday for not Memorial Day. It's really for Angela's birthday. So there you go. Well, happy early birthday.
Thank you, everybody.
So we will also be, I think because it was such a successful event, those of you who participated, what do you guys agree? Should we do these maybe, I don't know about maybe every month, but I think we should be doing these virtual open houses more frequently. Would you guys agree with that?
We have a dry run.
I think it is a good request that in the office, we will do a dry run practice. I think that's a great idea that we should practice our Zoom best practices. Yes.
I don't like doing things I don't.
I will say, during COVID, those who had the worst experiences with bloopers and things that went wrong did have the best showing and the best views. It is true. So yeah, the funnier they are, the more views you get. And yours was kind of funny, Maria. I will say I did enjoy it. It was great. And you know what made it great? You have a good sense of humor. Listen, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? I laugh at myself all the time. I do stupid things. And that's what makes it fun, right? But yes, we can certainly practice, because even though I do Zoom all the time, I just assume you all do too, but you just really are participating. You're not actually hosting the Zoom.
It's different on here.
And it is different on your phone. So we will practice an in-person Zoom. We'll have a whole class on it prior, a class meaning a practice run. No, we'll actually do one of ourselves. So that's a great idea. Before our next
Transition.
Yes, definitely transitions. Yes. And for those,
Say, do you walk the house?
yes.
That one?
Yes, walking the house is easy, but actually sharing back and forth, and people have to remember too, when you just come into the Zoom, if you're unmuted, I don't want to call out names, you steal the camera from those people that are on. And, you'll see it even in the Zoom as you watch people's faces. I couldn't even, some people I was able to, clip out, but others, you'll see someone's face in there and name in there that I couldn't clip out. And it kind of sort of steals the thunder for those who are, putting on the show. So it's not cool. So anyway, we'll work through all that. Okay, back to closing techniques. But again, thank you all for participating in the virtual open house. It did go great, and I was super excited for everybody who participated. Okay, can everybody see my screen with the slideshow that will be coming on in a second? Oh, I have to admit somebody else. All right, let me make this big. All right, slideshow, play from the start. Okay, y'all can see that, right? Closing techniques are designed to help someone move past moments of tension, indecision, confusion, and fear. Y'all can see that, right? Now, you guys unfortunately have the presenter one here because they all now can see the regular one. I don't know how to get you all seeing the same one. It's kind of bizarre. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But point being, a lot of people misunderstand and mistake the whole idea of a close. And I think it's because of terrible, slimy concept of salespeople. They think that closing is something where you're pushing people into something. That's not the idea of a close. The idea of a close is a natural conclusion. And people basically, when they have a decision to make, they get all confused and tense. We have to look at it by taking the pressure out. People came to make a choice of whether who's going to list their home, a choice of what home they're going to purchase. They need to make a choice. That's why they're there. That's why we're there, right? Whatever the case may be, whether it's a listing or whether they're trying to purchase something. It wasn't something in terms of, we like to say choice instead of decision. We like to use our words wisely, but the idea is it's not something that we're pushing them into, right? Didn't they have to do that before we got there? Wasn't that something they needed to do? So we're not pushing them into anything. We're not saying, something super slimy and sneaky and tricky. We're trying to help them make their best decision. We're trying to give them all the facts. We're trying to give them everything that they need to so that they can do the best with all of the facts and things that they need in front of them so that they can move on to the next step in their journey, right? That's the point of this. So we need to be very cognizant of a couple things. And as I like to say in NLP, emotion, which is a lot of times what fear is. And a lot of times when you get to the point where you've got to ask for the conclusion, it brings up emotion, right? So the only thing to counterbalance emotion is logic. So in a closing situation, you need to be the logical one. Or if they're hypological, if they are only an analytical type of person, sometimes you got to get them out of that. So you need to bring some emotion. You have to sometimes counterbalance the other side. You following me? And this is where you have to sometimes use a little NLP to try to help counterbalance what's going on. Because if you have an analytical, we call it analysis paralysis. Have we all seen that? Where you just need one more chart, one more fact, one more whatever. So the point is, you have to see and be able to read the situation from all sides and all aspects. So that's where these techniques and skills are going to help you, because it's not just about and this is where technique comes in. And this is where I say closing techniques. It's about understanding, as they say, reading the room, right? Okay, taking a temperature. Where are they at in their process? When I say take a temperature gauge, it's trying to understand where are they at in their decision-making process? How far do you think they are in understanding what you're trying to tell them, or understanding where they're at? You can't ask someone to close if you haven't earned the right. Did you understand what I mean by that, everybody? Like when you first meet somebody, you can say, oh, please, dear God, never say. And if you've ever said this, don't ever tell me, because I don't want to know. Is there something that's going to keep you from doing business with me today? If you ever say that, I don't ever want to know. Just don't ever tell me. That is the absolute worst thing in the world. Because now, if you ever say that to me, I'm going to think, well, now that you've mentioned it, yeah, okay. You're putting negative out into the conversation. Of course, I'm going to find a negative because you just put it out there. Why would you do that? And it's a dumb thing to say anyway, right? So think words are so powerful. These are just not good things to say. So you need to be the word crafter, right? You need to be the one thinking about all of the scenarios. Did you get there so they could tell you that they don't want to hire you? Was that the point at all? So why in God's name would you say that? It's like asking a yes or no question. You only have a 50% chance. Do you like those odds? Because I don't like them. That's why we don't ask yes or no questions, right? So you have to be smarter than that. That's where technique comes in. So when I say we're going to teach you closing techniques, it's about utilizing words. It's about understanding where people are at emotionally, logically, and in the process, because it's a true process of, getting ready to sell, getting ready to purchase, right? You guys following me? Because all of this is a process. So temperature gauges versus seeking agreement. Two different things. Yes, when you're trying to get them to nod their head and say yes, like if you're wanting them to buy or you're trying to go through the process of going through your marketing, does that make sense to you? Yes, we're going to talk about those types of things. That's tie downs versus trial closes. Trial closes, I'm trying to test to see, are you understanding what I'm saying? Or do I need to back up 3 steps? Did I go too fast? Imagine, some people say I go fast. I just can't even imagine. So you want to make sure that you're not saying too much or jumping ahead or skipping anything. So trial closes are when you're trying to test, Lisa, is this the type of marketing that you were hoping for when we talk about the global exposure?
I'm not really sure what I was thinking, to be honest.
Or maybe she might say, at a home of my price, I don't really see how global exposure would be important. Right? And maybe I put all this time and energy into global, thinking that I just said the Holy Grail, and I missed it all on her because she's like not even focused on it. Right? And then I could say, I could see how now I need to handle that objection. You see what I'm saying? Which is we're going to go into objection handling next week. But that's the point of that trial close right there. I needed to get her temperature because I might have thought I'm gonna hit on this global explosion the whole way through. I didn't test that, and then I'm gonna do my close on that, and it totally missed on her completely, right? Because we all
Fair.
yeah.
Okay. And I hope my face isn't popping up. But
I don't have it on that. Don't worry.
okay, good. So I went on a listing appointment yesterday,
Mhm.
and I just because I'm on this class today because in the past 4 months I have missed 3 listings that were mine, and I don't like to lose, or I don't like it. So I changed my tactic up, and before I went on the appointment, I asked a lot of questions. What is it that you were looking for? Da 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 da. And then I brought visuals for each one of my marketing pieces, not just the flip book. I brought the actual piece of what I was talking about. And I just went through it and I just pulled a yes set, meaning I showed them this. Is that what you thought? I showed them that. I showed them. So I went through and I did the yes set, meaning 7 times you say yes, there's no way you can say no. It's a psychological thing. So I pulled this together and I walked out with the 554 listing, which they wanted to list at 579. So I love closing techniques, and yeah, objection handlers are important, but closing techniques for me are paramount. And I love that you're doing the temperature gauge because sometimes we're off base.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of us, especially like if you're practicing, right? The 3 things about Sotheby's, the 3 things about Premier, the 3 things about yourself, and you think that those 3 things are super important, right? But they might not have been those 3 things that are important to them, which is why the temperature gauge thing is super critical. Like to the point of the global, like, so we were going to have to hit that one in an objection handling, which we're going to go over not next week, the week after, on how we would have handled that. So we're going to shelf that, how we would have handled that. But you follow why we need to check that temperature, right? Now, seeking agreement is like a trial close. Woulda, shoulda, couldn't. Those are the NT ones, right? So we're going to talk about that. So, here's your trial close. Does this make sense to you? Is this what you had in mind? Is this the type of communication you were looking for? Guys, always, always trial close on communication because that one is huge. We do a pulse report. We do the list track report. You're going to contact them. I like to contact them weekly personally. That is a huge, nobody communicates with people like we do. And so the way that the most important thing about the trial close is sometimes we over communicate and people don't want that. Or maybe the way we're going to call them, that's a big thing. So even though you're going to be getting the report from us, showing us all the marketing we're going to do, that's called the Pulse Report. And then you're going to be hearing from the brand and you're going to see how that marketing is working. I still love to speak to my sellers every week. And I talk to them on Mondays typically because the market speaks the loudest over the weekends. Is Monday work for you? How does Monday work for you? Right? You need to know. They might say Monday's a terrible day for me. You need to, know, does that work? What do you prefer in the communication style? Do you like a phone call? Do you prefer a voicemail? An email, or do you prefer a text? You need to know that. If they say they're texter, you just scored huge. Yes. If you're me, you love them, right? But if they I like a phone call. Oh, God. Then do you prefer the morning, the afternoon, or the evening? You need to get permission. And then you need to be accountable and always do it. Because if you go to that length and find that out and then you don't do it, you're going to look bad.
It's a big difference with some.
Huge. Huge. The other thing, guys, is this is a huge thing. You're going to be with them for what? 2 hours on a listing presentation, right? You better be writing down the words they're using. This is all part of that communication. I have had, for example, I had this one advisor. I remember it was even here. I can't recall. It could have been in another brokerage. And they just were not getting along with that seller. We're not getting along with that seller. And I found there was 2 problems. One, they kept texting. Well, they were millennial. The seller was a baby boomer. Baby boomer didn't like the text. Did not like it, was not responding well. She never asked them their level, what they wanted, how they wanted to communicate. So they did not like that. They were not feeling heard. Number 2, they were a vet. They were a high up person in the military. They didn't like the way she was speaking with them. It was a type of communication. She was not using the type of vocabulary. She was using her type of vocabulary. They were feeling not heard and disrespected. It was so simple to fix. When I sat down and said, let's go through the emails, let's go through the type of language they're using, let's go through how they want to be communicated with. They want you to call them. They've said it several times here. They don't want a text message. Read, not between the lines, read the lines. That's what they're telling you. You just like to text. They don't. She changed how she was communicating. They suddenly loved her and she got the deal done. So, it's very simple. People tell you what they want. And this is all has to be part of your closing technique. You need to do it from the very beginning because this is going to be part of what you're going to use when you're closing. If you're not using this as part of your close, it's going to make your close that much simpler. If you actually use all this stuff all the way through, they're going to ask you to close if you do it well. I can't tell you how many times people ask me, Carrie, what's the next step? I don't even have to ask them. And I said, well, this is how it works. It's great. Those are my favorites, right? Doesn't always happen, but oftentimes it does. I mean, I think I've been with a couple of you when it's happened. So that is the way it should work. It doesn't always work that way. If you're competing, sometimes it doesn't. But in a normal listing, even if it wasn't a referral, but if you've been called in and you've done a great job, they usually say, okay, what's the next step? If they're asking you the next step close, you've done this very well. All right. Is this the level of service and exposure you were expecting? Now, why is that one important? What do you think? Because you're like, well, how could that be misconstrued? It could, because you don't know what they thought about a luxury brokerage. Maybe this is something they felt like they've always wanted to have. Maybe this is the first time they've had a home that they considered luxury. Maybe they expected something completely different. You don't know that. And if you don't ask that question, you could be missing something huge. And now you're 2, 3 months in and they want to cancel a cancellation because you didn't do something that they thought you should have been doing this whole time, like putting the home in magazines. You know how many times I've heard that? Well, I didn't see my home in a magazine. It's a luxury home. Why is my home not in a magazine? I didn't see my home in the Southwest Orange magazine, the Dr. Phillips mag. I mean, but seriously, it's like ridiculous, right? If it's an old school person, sometimes they think that. So these are the things you have to ask that up front.
The Nona News.
Yeah. Well, we do go in the Nona
Yeah.
News, but don't ask me why. But yeah, we do that. All right. So then tie downs. These are really more to help you with a later close, which is a culmination close. Doesn't it, wasn't it, wouldn't it, hasn't it, anything with a shouldn't it, couldn't it, couldn't it, didn't it. This is to help build the culmination close. These are, in my opinion, better with a buyer. Isn't this the kind of kitchen you were hoping for? Wouldn't this work great with the kids when they're studying? It builds the emotion, which, by the way, when you're working with buyers, isn't that a great thing to do? You're trying to put them in an emotional headspace of somewhere they want to be. So you've got to get their emotion high enough to say, great, I want to buy this home. This is where I want to be. It's an emotional driver. Does that make sense? With a listing, emotion can be a double-edged sword. Would you guys agree with that? You can't get them too emotional because you need them to want to sell. If you get them too emotionally excited about their home, sometimes they feel a little bad and one party may not want to leave because sometimes they're not both on the same page. Have we all had that? Mike, you had that recently. Yeah. So, or worse, we had another one where, they should have left, but they had a death in the house, one of the kids, and it was like we listed the house, but they really weren't ready to let it go. And we had to be so careful around emotion every time we talk to them. Sometimes there's huge emotional drivers in the house because remember, they were raising the family in that house. Every little corner reminded them of the child who passed in the house. Oh my God, it was horrifying. So sometimes emotion can be a little scarier with sellers. Keep that in mind. If you've ever been with me, you notice I'm less emotional in a selling situation because the emotion really in a seller should be for their next step of their journey, where they're headed, not where they are. You don't want them to be emotional about where they were. You want them to be emotional about where they're going. You want them to be logical about about the house, about the items that they're selling, about what it's going to sell for, you want that to be very logical. You want it to be emotional about where they're going, when they're going to get there, the motivation on time. That's where the emotion has to be. It has to be about the next step, not where you're at, because it makes it very difficult if emotion gets tied into that sale. Would you guys all agree with that? I think that's one thing that people sometimes have trouble with. The reduced to the ridiculous. Has everybody done this one? This is probably one of my favorite ones. This can be used when you're buying a home. This can also be used for commission. This is a great one. Nobody's used this one? I love this one. Okay. So, sorry, Trip, we take out all of the actual interest out of this sucker. So, if you're between two different homes and you simply are like out, maybe one's a to be built, one's a built, you take out all the basic factors, you use your calculator on your phone and you just say, guys, really, are we really just considering $15,000, $100,000, whatever the price is? It doesn't really matter what the price is. You divide it by, you're gonna finance this, right, for 30 years. You divide it by, how much a month. You divide that by 12 months, and you divide it by a day. Really? For $1 a day, for $10 a day, for $50 a day, you're gonna give up the whatever, the 3-car garage that you've wanted, the 2-store, what you're going through all the things they love in the house for that much a day? It really doesn't matter because the $1 a day, the $100 a day, it's all relative, depends on their pocketbook, right? Same thing. This is the reduced to the ridiculous. Now, you can do this on commission when they're like, well, I don't really want to offer the agent on the other side anything, right? And you say, well, let me ask you, Teresa, would you be willing to give them 3% if they brought you a full price offer? No, I don't want to give them anything. And you say, so hold on a second, let me just ask you. And now you go and you say, let's say the home is 950, let's just say, times 0.03%. So for $28,000, let's see, $28,000. What's $28,000 mean to you over the next? You're going to go into the next home. You probably get a 30-year mortgage on that thing, right? And you do the same thing. And you're going to say that divided by 30 years, divided by 12 months, divided by 30 days. So for $2.55 for the next 30 years, you're not going to be willing to get the extra $28,000 that's going to get you to that next home, which is going to save you carrying costs, which for $2.55, your wife is going to kill you. She can't even buy not a Starbucks coffee. She can't even go to Wawa for that. And you're not going to be willing to get out of here and get the house that you see, you can break it down to the same ridiculous. Reduce the ridiculous can be used for anything. Does that make sense? It's a great way. But if you're doing it to commission, do a carrying cost, she's going to miss the home that she wants, that you're ready to purchase. You have to have some tying factors that there's a reason that you want to move on that home. Does that make sense? Okay. Dilute it. So this is another great technique. This can be used for so many things. People get focused on stupidity. Would you guys all agree with that? And it's usually, and this is very important that you understand, it's like smoke screens. So it's like, it's between two homes, but they get caught up on a 3-car garage when they only have 2 cars and they don't even have a golf cart and they don't work in the garage, but they think it's going to help their resale value or some stupid thing like that. Or, they want to sell their home, but because their neighbor sold it for, $1.2 million and they just got $1.5 million, $1.195 million. They won't do that because their neighbor sold it for, whatever, $2 million. It's like the stupidity of like that one little thing. You have to dilute whatever that minimal thing is. So for example, if it was the neighbor sold their home for, $5,000 more, then you could break it into the fact of something about the difference with the neighbor's home. Maybe the fact that the neighbor paid actually more for their pool. So in the reality, they ended up losing money because if you looked at the more that they paid for their pool, the net to them was actually less because, you know what I'm saying? So you have to find whatever, you have to pinpoint in a very quick fashion, whatever that stupid thing is that they're focused on and be able to dilute that one little issue to make it seem so small comparative to everything else, and then build everything else up to make it obvious that they're missing out the trees for the forest. Does that make sense? That's the diluting. So you really have to be able to pinpoint the issue to use the dilutive factor. Questions on that one? But we're good at our craft. Well, it's not really that hard because we always know what they're doing. We always know why they won't do it. And usually, isn't it a dumb thing?
Yeah.
We have all had that stupid reason, like why they won't make that one decision. Is chat on? So, for example, which we've had a seller who won't sell because the offers have come from people who are local and she only wants to sell to people that are foreign. But that's really not the reason, right? You can say things are the reason, but you have to really know what the true reason is, right? So a lot of people will say it's a reason, but it's really not the reason. So this is why you have to really get into the nitty-gritty of what the true reasons are. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, Lord. I love the feel, felt, found. I use this all the time. Buyers, sellers. Who else? Linda, I know you've used this a billion times.
People are doing it to me though, so I don't use it.
But you have used it a billion times. The feel, felt, found is my favorite. Lisa, have you used it? The feel, felt, found, I think, is probably the easiest thing to use But the most important thing with the feel felt found is it can't be about you. I think that's how people use the feel felt found wrong. I know how you feel. I felt the same way, but what I found, nobody cares. One thing you guys have to understand is that it's not about you. It's never about you. Nobody cares about you. I care about you. You can tell me about you, but the seller and the buyer don't care about you. As soon as it's about you, they feel like you're trying to push them into something, especially if you're close to writing a contract, but be it for a listing or for a sale. Does everybody agree with that? Nobody agrees with that? Thank you, Lisa. Lisa agrees with that. Nobody else. So the point is, the feel felt found is you always know someone who had the exact same type of situation. And recently you've seen them. It's like amazing how that happens. And they had the same thing. And when you saw them, you see that reminded you of the same thing. But now this is like a while ago that happened. And so you can say, but this is how this whole wonderful thing has ended up, because now you've kind of gone fast forward into the future because you've seen them after the fact and it worked out fabulous. So for example, I always use my cousins Sue and Tom because I can never remember anybody's name. Now I will tell you that my situations are always true because I always know people that this stuff happens to. Because how many times do I deal with these situations of everything? I never have to make anything up, but I just don't ever remember anyone's name. So I never try to recall people's names. It's always Sue and Tom, or, if I had to come up with Spanish names, I'd probably use my husband's family's names, Liliana, whatever, just it's people I know. But because I'm not going to try to actually recall the customers' names, because I'll be like, what are their names? That's just never good when you're trying to tell a story, So you have to just be able to have names roll off there. So nobody cares what their names are anyway, guys. But I'd be like, Linda, that is so funny. I know exactly how you feel because I had these customers who are such sweethearts, Sue and Tom. Oh my God, they're the best people ever. They had the same exact situation. They absolutely loved a home too. They were between these two. Sue really wanted the one with the big kitchen, but Tom wanted the one with the 3-car garage. And it was a real problem because it was like the battle of the sexes, right? Did she get the big kitchen or did he get the 3-car garage? And you know what? Can you guess who won? How did you know? Because Tom loves to eat.
Yeah.
And Sue was a great cook. And I just saw Sue and Tom the other day. They had me over. They cook. She does cook so well. And Tom said he was so glad he made that decision. He did gain 5 pounds, which was a little bit of a problem, but because they found that Tom actually turned the 5th bedroom into his studio, which was so much better than putting it outside in the garage because he found out that he wasn't going to put a little fan out there. Plus, he would have just sweat and it would have been gross anyway. And he's been turned into, now he's doing some woodworking. He's just having so much fun. Sue was so happy because she sees him so much more because she wouldn't have seen him out in the garage. And they just really said that he's just made so much, actually, more fun in the relationship too. I didn't ask, there's some things you just don't tell.
So I'm gonna change my answer. I use that all the time, but I call it a third-party story.
Oh,
Is
okay.
it called-
Oh, so you call it a third party story.
Yes.
Yeah.
I call it a third-party story, yeah.
Yeah.
rather than-
But so your third party story is a feel felt found.
Yes.
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah. So there's your feel felt found. So you got to make it fun. Mine are always funny, of course, because I like to think I'm a little bit of a comedian, you know. Tom did gain a little extra weight, and Sue is a great chef, by the way. She does cook a mean lasagna. And there's a little spice in their life. Like, I don't know, but Tom is a retired police officer, and yeah, I can talk about them because they're my cousins. But but the point is, you want to have a story, and it could be about, anything. It could be about a listing, could be about a sale, but you want to have a story that makes sense to them. Now, if it's about me, they don't care. But if it's about their situation, then they feel good about it. Do you guys use that ever?
I connected, I had one on Saturday where he kept talking, I could tell he was the only child and I'm the only child. So when we were walking out, he was walking me to my car. I said, are you the only child? It sounds like you're taking on this all for your parents. And he goes, yeah. I said, I totally understand. I'm the only child as well. And I said, we're the favorite child, right? And he touches my shoulder and he says, we get blamed for everything. So I can just tell that one little thing, like he relaxed. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it
It was a
cool.
good connection
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Mhm. Maria, I'm sure you use Feel Felt Found.
No, third party source.
It's the same.
Tomato. Because you're right, you don't care.
Yeah,
I care about this.
but the Feel Felt Found is the, exactly.
Feels found.
Yeah, but that's the whole found. I understand how you feel. Sue and Tom felt the same way, and this is what they found. It's the third party story. Exactly. So, but it works all the time. So I highly recommend you use that one. Here's the momentum close. Now this works really well, I would say, in a purchase more so than a listing, but this is when you're using those tie downs. You're creating that momentum of agreement. Wow, this kitchen really is exactly what you're telling me about. You wanted to have that huge island and you're really for that open space, but you really wanted to be able to also look outside when you did the dishes. And this has all of those things, doesn't it? Yes. Oh my gosh. It's like it was right out of your mind when it put the bedroom right here. And I said, so you're kind of like doing that the whole way you're seeing through. And you want them to keep going, yes, yes. So at the end, it leads right to your momentum close. And then it goes right into so it seems like it's the absolute perfect home for you, isn't it? Yes. So they keep saying, yes, yes, yes. It's almost like a Harry Met Sally moment. I like to call your momentum close when Harry Met Sally close. But this one, in my opinion, does not really work well in a listing appointment. Because again, a listing appointment, I think, not that you can't have some fun in a listing appointment, but it's a lot more serious. Would you agree with that?
They make it more fun.
Well, fun, but it's not emotional. Like it's not, so you really want to sell. It's exactly the marketing you're looking for, isn't it? Like, yeah, no. Exactly what you were hoping I would say.
Get up, make your bed.
You just can't wait to pay commission, can you? Yeah, it doesn't quite work the same way. Can't quite translate. Okay. Now we're gonna do the Ben Franklin close. How many people in here have done a Ben Franklin close?
Sounds cool.
Okay, I'm going to pause this for a second and we're gonna grab a piece of paper. Everyone.
I'm scared.
You should be.
They rescheduled tomorrow.
You want to do a match?
No, before you say, this is
Okay.
It's all their fun.
Yeah. Process, but I never heard of all the things.
That's why people, right? The lady. Welcome along. Fine. So if you want to, Ben Franklin?
I do.
All right. Okay, people online, if you want to get your own paper, you can. All right. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We are going to, now you can Ben Franklin anything. I love the Ben Franklin close. Has anybody in here ever done a Ben Franklin close?
We might call it something else. What was it called?
Pro-con.
Oh, yeah.
It's Ben Franklin. It's the best.
You renamed everything, so we don't.
Yeah.
I renamed it to make it mine. No, I didn't rename it. It's Ben Franklin. All right. So,
Is there a kite involved?
yes, we turn it into a kite and we throw it across the room.
Lightning.
Lightning strikes when you get the right answer. No. So, I have used this all over. I've used it for my kids' college. I've used it. My kids use it. We all use it. This is like the family close. So, Oh, it's great. This is a good close. So you could use this for anything. We're going to use it. Let's say you're sitting in with a customer and we're going to do 2 homes, whether they want to buy. So when I do, well, let's say I'm working with buyers. My buyer tours not necessarily in just the order of which they like the home. I put them in the order of the least to the nicest because I want to end up in the home I want them to offer. That's how I like to show homes. I don't know how you like to show homes, on purpose. And because I plan to show 5 homes the most, and I plan to write an offer that day, of course, because I don't like to show more than once. And when I do that, and in every home, I don't know how you guys do this, but I play a game. I don't care if you're investors. I don't care what you are. I've done this with grown men that are investors. We're playing my game. We're playing it my way, or you can leave. And I say, okay, at the end of the showing, at the end of every home, I'm gonna ask you each, you cannot we're playing my way. You cannot talk to each other. You have to tell me in a score from 1 to 10, 1 being the least, 10 being the most, what number do you give this home? And then I ask them each individually, why? What makes it a 5? Why do you name it so high? Depending on, sometimes you get that guy or girl who won't name it anything higher, and you're like, Jesus, give it to me. Or, what would get it to a 7 or what would get it to an 8? Because I want them to tell me if I think, we're not going to get any higher this day or whatever it is. But I am writing on each sheet their words exactly. Now I have my own MLS sheet. They have their pretty little buyer tours. And then at the end, so the first they tell what it is. Okay, they keep the form. The next one we go into, they'll give me another home. Whichever one's higher they keep, I take the other ones back. They only get to keep 1 sheet at a time. That's it. Because when we end up in the last home, they only have 1 home left. I do that on purpose because that's the home we're offering on. Because I never want to hear, oh, I want the kitchen from that one and the backyard from that. No, they don't have that one because that one's gone. It already is under, that was a 5, this was a 7, that was an 8, I already did that. Sorry, we're not going back. You lost it. I know somebody who rips it up. I don't rip it. I just take it back. Yeah, that's a little harsh for my taste. I just take them. Yeah. That's a show. I'm not quite that show. I'm not that show level. That's a little bit too high for me. So, yeah. So the point is, when we do that, we end up in the last home. Usually you have 2 homes, right? Where you're at and the one they had. If you really are at that point where you're like between those 2 homes, we'll do it right in the home and we'll Ben Franklin it. So I'm going to say, okay, so we're going to be between, we're just going to call it the yellow home. So write yellow, just for lack of better thing, and the blue home. I'll use better words, right? Depending on what we know, but I'm going to say yellow home, blue home. And then in between each, I'm going to write pro, con, pro, con. Pro, con, right? Got it? Like they did there. I've done this between new builds and inventory. I've done it for so many things. Okay. Now, I'm going to say, who wants to play? Linda?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to be my buyer. Linda, tell me all the things you loved about that yellow home.
I love the big yard.
Big yard. See, I'm writing the words that she says. Okay.
I really like the kitchen.
What about the kitchen?
I love the big center counter.
Big center counter. Uh-huh.
Light.
Lots of light. Mm-hmm.
And I like the spacious master bedroom.
Spacious master bedroom. Okay. Now, what were some of the things that weren't your favorite about it?
It wasn't fenced, so my dogs can't run outside.
No fence. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in a busy neighborhood,
Busy
so there's lots of traffic going by, so I'm not really thrilled with that.
Okay.
And it's not, I don't know, I think it's a little bit more dated than the other house.
Bit dated. Okay, so let's talk about that blue home that you loved. What were some of the things you absolutely loved about that?
I love the kitchen in that one as well. It had really nice Viking appliances, so I really like that. It had a nice
Viking.
countertop.
What was about the appliance, the countertop you said? You said something that you loved about that countertop.
It was big. It was big. I like nice and spacious, so I can put a lot of things.
Big,
Yeah.
spacious Countertop. Now, I want you to see something. If I know she wants the blue one, I'm gonna write bigger. See, I know which one she's gonna lean to. I'm gonna make sure it visually will appear the right way. Okay, go ahead.
I also like the bedroom very much in that one, the nice large master suite.
Large.
I have right now small.
Master suite. Mm-hmm.
The yard wasn't quite as big in the blue one, but it did have a fence, which I really like for my dogs.
Great fence. Mm-hmm.
And I think it had a little bit more lighting, and I like my home to be nice and bright.
More
So I think it, I had a
bright.
little bit more lighting.
Light. Okay. And what was some of the things that you wanted to change?
Well, it was a little bit too modern for me, I think. The style was a little bit too modern.
A little?
But it wasn't dated like the other one, but it was a little bit
Too
too modern.
modern.
Not quite to my taste with my current furniture.
Okay.
Room, I have to decide how to rearrange my furniture because the size and shape is a little bit different than what I have right now.
But as we discussed, your niece just finished her residency at that wonderful program with the design. And so you said she was going to come in, right? So that's really not a negative. We're just going to bring her and she was going to come check it all out for you.
True.
See, so I'm not even going to write it down. So as we go, I might handle some objections. You see how I'm doing that? Okay. What else was it that you didn't like?
That I didn't like,
Or you wish was different?
well, I have a lot of trees around it and I don't like to have leaves on there. So that's,
Right. So you might need, but you did say you loved the shade.
I do like the shape.
So it's really not a negative. So we actually love the shade, but I guess the negative is that you need to pay for some yard care.
That's true.
So pay for yard care. Okay. Anything else?
No, I think,
Okay. So it seems that you already have made your decision, doesn't it?
yeah. Let's think of the blue one.
So I guess the next question is, how much would you like to put as a deposit? Are we gonna go with the 50,000 down, or did you want to do 45?
45.
Okay, we'll do 45 down. You see what I'm saying, guys? The key with the Ben Franklin close is you already know which one's gonna win. You're using her words exactly. You make sure visually which one's gonna win because you want it to visually show. And if you know one's gonna win, you can handle some objections and turn it into a positive if you already discussed a couple things.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I knew the yellow was gonna win, like the no fence thing, I could have said, but as we discussed, it's very easy to get a fence put in, right? And I could have handled that one, but I didn't because I didn't want the yellow one to win.
Yeah.
I like the blue one, right? Like I knew that she wanted the blue one to win, right? So follow me? So there's your Ben Franklin close. Can you do that in a listing? Yeah, but what would be the point of doing it in the listing?
Yeah.
Maybe it's really more for a buyer, I would say. It's good for my kids picking their college.
Choosing for them?
No, if you're with a buyer, don't you know which they're picking?
I do, but you know. it's like-
That's why you're doing it with them to help them see visually.
I'm Pushing.
You're
helping them see. You're using their words. You can't, I didn't use any of my words. I wrote down everything she said.
If they legitimately don't know, you're not gonna push them, but
No.
when they know, but they don't know, you're just helping them.
There's someone
Right.
that has a hard time making this.
Just pushing their words.
They
Well,
make
you're
you
writing
visual.
down their words. You're visually showing them their words on paper. That's all you're doing.
They're full of.
Yeah. Yeah, and it helps them make that decision and it leads you to the next step close, which is, so the next step, how much would you like to put down as an alternate choice close? That leads right to the alternate choice close, which I like to go to the deposit. How much would you like to put as the deposit? 45 or 50. Give her a choice. Don't just say how much. Tell her how much. Would you like to do 45 or 50? Don't just say how much would you, oh, I don't know. Now you're gonna have a whole nother friggin' thing. Like give her suggestions.
Yeah, because half the time they.
They have, yeah, what do you think? And then you're gonna have a whole nother thing, like,
Go ahead.
yeah. They're already like, oh my God, how long have we spent here? And if they've been with me, God knows 8 hours, so. Because we're doing it in one day, because I'm busy tomorrow. Yeah, so, does that make sense? This is how I would do it all the time. If I had to spend 2 days, it was only because we had two separate areas of town. In which case, the first day was the area I didn't think they were buying. So I was a little cranky because I knew I was wasting my time, but I knew tomorrow we were buying. But sometimes you had to do that.
Yeah, that's what you should. I mean, it is, 'cause that's how.
It's builder world
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
But you know,
You can choose from, yeah.
yeah, but that's builder world. I mean, anybody who's been in builders knows that that's how we do it in builders. So you could do this, if inventory versus to be built, this is very, very good for any new, any buyer. And if you guys are working with buyers now, you should be doing this. Mhm.
Yeah.
You could do this cash versus, purchase, if you're gonna do it with a loan. There's two ways we can look at this. We could do this home cash, or we can do this with a loan. You already have the numbers from Trip. You do it both ways and just, Ben Franklin it out. Either way, you know you're buying. Just which way do you want to buy it? That's another good way to do it, right? We know you love the home. Here's the question. Do we want to buy cash or do we want to buy it with a loan? Sometimes that's the problem too. They're trying to figure out, right? You can use Ben Franklin, guys, for anything. Like I said, I was in the airport. I thought my son, we went to the accepted Johns Hopkins thing with my first son. And I was like, for sure that he was going to sign when we were there. And he didn't. And I was like, what in God's name is going on? And we're at the airport and he's like, well, maybe I'm going to do Notre Dame. I'm like, no, Vanderbilt. And I'm like, Vanderbilt? You love Johns Hopkins. What are you talking about? I don't know what happened. So we actually pro-conned it in the airport. He's like, yeah, it was Johns Hopkins all along. I know. Oh, what is wrong with you? But he's like, Mom, let's do that pro-con thing. Let's do your Ben Franklin thing. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, it was just weird. I know, let's do your mind meld. This is weird. But yeah, sometimes people just, they get to a moment, and they're like, I can't make the decision. Even though, I mean, he always wanted to go to Johns Hopkins. He was so excited he got in. I was like, okay, we're at the table, sign. He's like, I'm not ready. I'm like, why the hell are we here? You made me fly all the way to Baltimore for you not to sign. So yeah, sometimes people really do. They just need to get it out, even though they know. Question? Or not. Okay, fabulous. So, all right, moving on. So I hope that was helpful to some, and if not, too bad. I'm just kidding. Kidding. Nobody's fun today. All right, fine. All right. There's that assumptive close. So that's like, looks like you've made the right decision, right? That's what I said to Linda. Looks like you've already made the decision. Right? It's very simple. And then you move on to the next step. The question is, how much would you like to offer? You just never do a yes or no. Don't do it. You have 50% that they could say no. Don't do it. And then we have our summary close. Does everybody remember our summary close? I have that one. I can print it out for everybody again, but the summary close to me is my favorite for a listing presentation. The best thing about the summary close, and I have some in my office if we need to pull it out again, but a lot of times when you're at a listing presentation, people don't pull out the actual listing, right? They send that via .loop to people, And so sometimes you leave and people don't feel like they're tied in. I'm not going to say that they say yes and then they don't do it. Has it happened? A couple times, yeah. And you're like, all right, I don't know what happened. They said yes, and now suddenly they're not. But when you do this and you make them sign the bottom of this, they feel like they're tied in. So it's just one other way to make them feel like they've agreed, even though it's really just a piece of paper, right? It's not legally binding, but it's a good thing to make sure. So what do? You go over and you summarize. Well, I'm super excited. We're going to get started with the marketing. We're going to do, and you just summarize what we've covered. We're going to do my God, what did I call it? Our new program? quiet exclusive. Thank you. I couldn't remember the new name. We're gonna do our quiet exclusive. At first, for the first 2 weeks, while we get your pictures up, we can start maybe do a quick little broker open, and then we're gonna go live. And we're gonna make sure that we do, because you're on the beautiful lake, Butler Chain of Lakes, we're gonna do 2 signs. We're gonna do one huge one right on the water and then one on the road. That way we have double exposure. You know, you're gonna hit all those things, right? And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna set the price, which I feel very comfortable with at the 2.5, but we'll start the quiet exclusives maybe at 2.65. And when we do the broker open and see if we can't get a little interest, if not, we'll hit the MLS at 2.5, unless we feel like we could have done a little different. Sound good? And then the communication, that's where I'm going to go over all the things. So as you know, you were going to get the pulse report every week telling you all of the marketing we're going to be doing. And then the brand is going to tell you how it's working. So you're going to get that every week. But as I mentioned, I love to communicate with my sellers every week. And I think that the market speaks a lot over the weekend. So I like to communicate on Mondays. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Mondays? Great. Do you prefer mornings, afternoon, or evenings? Terrific. Do you prefer a phone call, an email, or a text?
I think a text is fine for me.
Terrific. Sounds great. And I write it down right there. So the next question is, which day do you want to go live? Now, see, this is a stupid, benign question. You want this, it doesn't matter. Some people ask you, where do you want the sign to go? Also a stupid, benign question, but some people are really particular. Well, there's this tree here, and then, I mean, Jesus, don't get caught up in that. You want this to just keep rolling. So what day do you want the listing to go live? We're going to do the quiet exclusive here. We're going to hit the broker open here. So you want it to go on a Tuesday or a Thursday? Some people like the Thursday, get excitement right before the weekend. Other people think a Tuesday, give us some time to build. Which do you prefer?
I think Thursday.
Thursday it is. So we're going to put a Thursday right there. So we'll focus on it going live for a Thursday. Terrific. Sign here. And you just make them sign. See how it goes? And now they feel like they've signed a listing. What'd they sign?
A piece of paper.
A piece of paper.
So do you do that if you think they're not gonna, I try to.
I would do that and then have them sign the listing. But now, at the very least, they've gone over your marketing, right? And now you have a plan. This is a plan of action. At the very, if they haven't signed your listing, now they feel like they've agreed to you. They've signed. If someone says, did you sign something? They say, yes, I did sign something. I don't know what they signed, but they signed something. Right? Because how many times you meet with somebody and say, well, did you sign something? Yeah, I did sign something. What was it? I don't know.
That's true.
Right? I mean, I'm not trying to be tricky, but they did sign something.
That's the age I want to talk to first, then what you say? I don't know, I'm
Oh.
not really ready to sign at the end, you say, go through a whole thing, and you say, gosh, I don't know the person interviewing, what would you say?
Well, I could appreciate that. Can I ask you, Linda, where's that person from?
They're from Century 21.
Oh, I see. Who is it?
It's my brother-in-law's cousin.
Oh, how sweet of you to give family a shot. You are so nice. Can you adopt me? Oh gosh, you're so sweet. Well, I could say certainly that is very nice of you for doing that. I would tell you that, of course, they don't have, barring all of the exclusive, global networking and our marketing, of course, and the PR, they don't have any of that. I'm sure they're a wonderful person, and I know that they will market the heck out of it within our MLS. Is there anything you're expecting them to do differently?
I don't know what to expect.
Well, I could tell you that they're doing all the stuff in the local MLS like your last broker did.
See.
So they don't do anything globally. They don't do anything that we went over. Do you feel that Sotheby's would be able to, if everything that we went over, certainly do more for your listing?
Oh, I'm very impressed with you guys. I just thought I had to see Century 21 to give them a chance.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we sign, but I'll wait and not start it. And that way, if you still want to talk to him, you can, and I won't put it on yet. And then you could just give me a call tomorrow because you're seeing him today, you said?
Yeah, my brother-in-law would really appreciate that.
Sure. So we'll just sign everything today, post date it to tomorrow. And that way that way you've seen him, talk to him, and then we'll just start it tomorrow then.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Yeah, so you still started with us. Okay, last one I'm going to go over is the takeaway, guys. And again, this one is super important. But this one has to start with earlier in the listing presentation, and that's the three things that are going to happen here today. Brady, I have to tell you, I'm having so much fun with you here today already. And I want to thank you for the opportunity. Just meeting you has been so much fun. And there's going to be three things that are going to happen. And it's okay, whatever one happens. The first thing, which I hope for, is that we're just going to hit it off. You're going to love the marketing. We're going to be completely on the same path with the planning and the timing and the price. We're going to get your home sold and get you off to Tennessee. That's the first thing that can happen. The second thing that could happen is maybe you don't think something about my marketing, something about the timing, the pricing. Maybe I'm not the right agent for you, and that's okay. That's all right if that happens. Or I may not agree with something in your timing, pricing strategy, and I promise I will never overpromise and underdeliver, in which case I will thank you for the opportunity and walk away. I have set you up. So later, if we're in pricing, if we're in strategy, something, and I say, well, Brady, remember what I said? One of three things are going to happen here today. Unfortunately, that's just not going to work, but I thank you so much. I'm going to start gathering my things as I'm saying that, and I'm going to thank you for the opportunity, but I wish you the very best. I'm going to do that as I'm packing up. He needs to know that I'm serious about my walk away. You can't just be like, no, that's not going to work for me. Sorry, that doesn't work. The takeaway has to be very strong, but on purpose. So when I do a takeaway, I'm very much like, well, Brady, I want to thank you for your time. As I mentioned before, one of three things was going to happen. Unfortunately, I cannot get on board with your timing and your pricing, but it has been such a pleasure meeting with you. I am on purpose. I am leaving. Thank you for your time. I wish you the very best. I'm ready to go. Right. I don't say I'm ready to go, but clearly you see that I'm ready to go. And I get up, shake his hand. Now he may stop me. Oftentimes they do. And if he doesn't, I'm out. I'm done. I'm good. Because I don't want that anyway. If he's like setting a crazy price or, wants me to do something stupid that I'm not going to do, like co-listed with somebody.
So if they don't call you back, when would you follow back up with it?
I won't.
You won't, okay.
Well, it depends on what they wanted and why I left. Right? If I'm leaving like that, there's a strong reason I'm leaving like that. Hey, Chad. So, yeah, if I'm just picking up and leaving like that, we're really off on price. You want me to do something that I don't agree with. It's something real. It's not like we're having a conversation. I'm trying to handle an objection with you. I mean, I'm pretty good at objection handling and changing people's minds. But if I'm like seriously picking up and taking my toys and going, I'm not calling you back. I'm out.
Like they want to start 2 million of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's no listing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I consider myself lucky I got out. Yeah. So nice to have met you. Yeah. And the most important thing is I've written here, you have to convey it doesn't matter to you. That's why if you call them back, you just lost the whole thing.
No, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's the first person who talks loses anyway after that. Besides, you will have lost because.
I actually told someone, I would call that
Yeah.
agent.
And the last thing I'm going to say here, guys, is that you need to choose your words very carefully. So at the builder, we had a very strict list of things you could say and couldn't say. And these are a lot of those lists that I still like and use. So like you never say deal. It's a value. It's an opportunity. It's not a cost. It's a total value. It's not a contract. It's paperwork. We don't like to say commission, it's fee for our service. It's never the cheapest, it's the best value or more affordable. All of these things are very like monthly payment is monthly investment. Instead of restrictive covenants, they're protective covenants. So yeah, we never said lot. It was a home site. It's not a house, it's a home. Although sometimes when you talk to a seller, it is a house. because you want to disconnect them from the emotion, right? So, but these are very important words that you need to make sure you can use. Now, when you're going to compare it to the other person who's going to come, you can say, well, they may be cheap. They may give you a cheaper price, or, right? You're going to use these words against them for other people. But if you don't know what the words are, well, yeah, of course, I might be giving you a good deal, but is it a better value when you're just cutting your commission? Right? What are you getting for that? Right? Is that really a better value? Because you're not getting any service. So it's all about how do you use these words to your best interest. So these are some good words to make sure that you know, use, and I know I love them. So, well, I'm going to thank you all for coming. Next, not week, but the week after, we will do handling objections so that you know when you get faced with an objection, what you need to do to be able to overcome that, like what we talked about when you hit the exposure one, right? And 2:00, Chad's Be There, Be Square. Chad, you want to say something about it?
Oh, yeah, come join us at,
Come on.
hello, everyone. Yeah, come join us today. It's a spectacular home on a peninsula in between Lake Tibet and Lake Sheen. So very unique, amazing home. Come see it. 4.2 million, 3% commission.
Nice. Woo, we'll be there.
Oh.
All right, guys, thanks for joining, and we'll see you later. Bye.